It has been a long time since I've done anything for YouTube, and I thought that what I would do here is show you an example of the lessons that we've got on my Art Lab Association, which is my monthly club. It has been running for nearly 5 years now, or maybe slightly over 5 years. I started it in 2020, and we have got a whole bunch of projects, and this isn't even all of them because some of them I have given away or sold. Some of the more completed projects have been sold, and some of them have been given away, and some of them are squirreled away in journals and things and I can't find them. But I thought that maybe if you were interested or intrigued about joining and you weren't sure what kind of things we did, then this will show you some of the projects so that you can get a good idea. So when we started out, I started out just with the intention of just doing watercolor and gouache and making our materials list super simple so that you wouldn't need to buy lots of materials. So I actually need to refilm my intro video because that was made 5 years ago, and I show you all the materials we're going to use, and it's mostly just white nights, watercolor and gouache. And since then we have diversified a bit just because of my art mediums buying addiction and my need to try new things and things like that. But if you just want to do watercolor and gouache, there are so many projects in there that you could skip all the other ones. I only just recently started introducing alcohol markers and colored pencils, but if you want to skip those, you can, because there's like tons, maybe hundreds of lessons just in watercolor and gouache. And while I don't exclusively stick to white nights, because I also got a little bit waylaid with trying other brands of watercolors, you could probably still do all those projects with just one set of watercolors and not have to buy any other. So I've kind of sorted these into categories, but it's not maybe as neatly sorted as the classroom itself, because in the classroom we have different categories. So we have watercolor. I'm not going to go through them all here, it's super boring, but like watercolor animals, watercolor portraits, watercolor landscapes, watercolor florals, and then a few more, and then the same with gouache portraits, gouache landscapes, gouache florals, and so on. And then our new categories, which are mixed media, so anything that is like half and half even, so watercolor and colored pencil, I'm starting to put in there, or anything that is purely other media or mixed media in there. And I may add to it as we go on. So we have some introductory lessons for if you're a super beginner, just exercises, and some of these are in separate lessons and some of these are attached to lessons. So we had, for example, doing different feathers here. I think this was in, I can't remember exactly. There's no point in me telling you exactly where everything is because I can't remember, but this is maybe in the animals, watercolor animals, and it sets you up for if you then want to paint a bird, you've got a little bit of practice in doing different feathers. There's some different just fun exercises that help with brush control. So this is like, you know, maybe even mixing colors of paints or trying out different colors of paints and painting leaves and things. This is, I wouldn't say an exercise, but more of a super beginner's lesson where we've got snowflake patterns. And again, this is super good for brush control. There maybe this one's a little bit messy, so forgive that. And this was inspired by those sea urchins. I couldn't think of the word there. And doing different patterns, almost like an abstract. And then we did, let's see, some different plant forms. So doing like different kinds of leaves and practicing doing glazing to get nice pale glazes. This is one of the super early projects, and the same with ferns. And then trying out fun different abstract and real trees, and again your brush work and different kinds of brush control and effects. There are probably more of those squirreled away in journals somewhere. There are lots of different beginner exercises, and we have even, I haven't got them here to show you, but like just, you know, swatching and mixing colors and how to make different brush marks and how to make different paint effects, and there's lots of exercises like that for you. This was trying out things like pressing in leaves into your watercolor, so just trying out different kinds of techniques and different kinds of flowers. This is like a watercolor cornflower, and then this is a gouache one. So, and this was a fun landscape where we tried making different pen marks with, you know, to show different kinds of textures, and then a simple watercolor wash. Now, moving on to some cute little landscapes, and some of these are gouache and some of them are watercolor, and there are tons more in the classroom, but I just don't know where they are right now. So these are just different kinds of simple watercolor landscapes that we've got here. This was a gouache one here, just getting the effect of the light coming through the trees. And then we've got even more simple ones. So if you're a super beginner, it's like a super simple layered landscape. And then we started making it just a little bit more complex and a bit more complex. So different kinds of landscapes, building up your gouache skills, and working on quite a small scale so that it's easy to achieve within an hour or two. We've got some more gouache landscapes here. And there are more landscapes that I'll find for you in a bit in some of my sketchbooks. I'm going to get them out too. And then I was really into, for a few months, these circle landscapes. So we've got some nice wintry watercolor landscapes and a little snow globe here. That again was like a little wintry landscape. And then I'm moving on here to some animals. Now some of these are, I'm going to put this in the illustrations category. Some of these were a little bit mixed media, some of them are realistic, some of them are more illustrative. This is one of my more recent ones, and I think this went in the mixed media category because we mixed white gel pens and colored pencils with watercolors to do this sea turtle. So we've got a mix of media in this painting, and we've got some more quirky illustrative ones like this little bird and a super cute little baby dinosaur, which again I think went in the mixed media category because I used colored pencil, fine liner pen, but again a nice simple project, this one for beginners. I do have more complicated projects, so if you are a super beginner, the club is so suitable for you because we do pare it back to, there are super simple projects, and then as you progress you can do the more complicated ones. And if you're less of a beginner, it's also got plenty projects so that you can get your teeth stuck into, that take a little bit more time and a little bit more skill. Like this pheasant here, this went along with the feathers lesson. And then two different birds, this little watercolor, and this is a gouache one. So this is more realistic and this is more illustrative. I do like to do quite illustrative work, but also some realistic work. This was a lesson in painting a white object, a white dog, and I did have others, but I can't find those finished projects at the moment. But it was using very pale washes of different colors of watercolor that still show the white animal, because painting something white on white paper is a challenge. This is one that got framed because I was selling it, and it was a nice totally finished project of some field mice on puppies. So this is a more complete, something that would take you a few more hours, or you could work over a few days. I do like hairs, and I've got several hairs lessons in the club. This is one of the more simple ones of just a hare bounding over some fields. We use masking fluid to mask out the plants here. Now I also have some exercises. So there's another one somewhere that I'll look out for you, but this is there's a whole lesson on painting different animal eyes. In fact, I think the other one is in the pile of portraits. There's a whole one on painting animal eyes, close up, and the different kinds of animal eyes, which is a super fun investigation. And then I've got some birds. So there's this bluebird. I don't know exactly what kind of bird it is, but again in watercolor. And then this parrot, again in watercolor. So some of the animals are more cute and quirky and illustrative. This is a little hedgehog wearing a jumper, and I've got some also done in alcohol markers that I'll show you in a little bit. And then I did a little series of rainbow animals in watercolor, quite nice and loose and varying in complexity. So obviously this is a much more simple one here, suitable for beginners. And I do leave you in the lessons, either some of the lessons, because the way that I've taught over the time period, over the last 5 years, has changed a little bit. In that when I started out, quite often I made PDFs to follow along step by step with photos. And then as time's gone on, I've lessened the number of PDFs that I give out, because I felt like people didn't really want them or need them. Although if that's not the case and you join the club, you can let me know and I can always change that. But I started giving more like the reference image or a traceable if you want. I know that a lot of people like a traceable, but I tend not to have traceables in the earlier lessons. So it's not consistent over the whole club, just because the club's 5 years old and things have changed and evolved. But obviously the lessons aren't in order of start to finish, so it may be a little bit confusing when somebody joins now and they see one lesson's got a PDF and one lesson's got a traceable. But there's always something that you can use for reference, you can print off the finished piece. Quite often I'll give you the finished piece that you could print off if you wanted to trace it with a light box, or just use it as a reference image. Or you can also just draw them from scratch. So I would say 95% of the lessons, I show you how to draw from scratch. We do it from scratch, step by step. They're all in real time. They're not super edited or sped up. There might be some videos where if there's like a long drawn out bit that is a lot of repeating, I will either cut that, or I will say I'll see you when I'm finished that bit, or I will speed it up, just because otherwise it would be boring for you to watch. But they're not like YouTube videos in that they're not just like on fast forward with a voiceover or whatever. So if you are a super beginner, you can follow along and hopefully have a lot of success. I know that there's a lot of success because my students so far have shown really amazing pieces of art that I am quite often very blown away. Sometimes they do better than me. I'm not going to deny that. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I'd thought to put that in the painting. But anyway, so here are the rainbow animals. I think this was the second most complex. And then the wolf was the most complicated one. And I really love this wolf. We've got some more gouache animals here. A little beetle study and butterfly study. This is quite an early project. I think I did these in the first year that the art club was running. Another hare done in gouache, an illustrative hare. And there is a few more hares that I don't have to show you because I've sold them. So this is actually the lesson that I'm giving everyone for July. One of the lessons I'm giving you for July, which actually originally was a lesson in Life Book, I think, 2023. And I thought it really fit in with the whole Art Lab Association theme and ethos and feeling. So I thought that my students there would like to do this lesson as well. So now it's been released back to me. I can release it to you guys. So this is one of them, and I've got another one I'll show you in a little bit. And again, this is another lesson that was part of another class which I have released to Art Lab Association students. So this was part of, I can't remember now, maybe the Make, Create, Express. I can't remember the name of the class, but it was several years ago, 2020 or 2021 or a while ago. But I just really loved this one. I really loved this one, and I thought that you guys would like it, so I have released that lesson to you. We've got some more animals. We've got a lot of animal lessons, and what I'm showing you doesn't even touch the surface, and I don't even know where half of them are. But we've got this cute little snow leopard, and again, this is a little bit more illustrative. This little gouache bear, and a really colourful gouache butterfly, which I think is one of my favourites, partially because it's turquoise and pink combo, which I just love that combination. And we did a fox in gouache, and we did another one in alcohol markers that is almost the same composition. So you'll be seeing that one in a minute. But it was almost like a compare and contrast between the two. And again, this is a simple lesson. This was just a simple illustrative, some gouache and white ink birds. And some cute little studies of baby animals and some little snails. Again, just cute little fun exercises. If you've just got 20 minutes, you can sit down and do something like that. This is more butterflies. So again, this is one of the more finished, complete projects that we've got of this owl in a forest. And again, one of my favorites, I think. I just really love this one. So this is the second one that is going to be gifted from Lifebook 2023, and I thought again that this really fit in well with the Art Lab Association feel and ethos, and it's a little sleeping mouse under a forest, a little magical fairy mushroom forest. This is one we did for Halloween. Of this cute little kitty in a pumpkin, another gouache illustration, and some more baby animals. So this is one of my earlier projects, and this was one where we did look at William Morris style leaves, and did a gouache illustration using some elements of that. And I really love this one as well. This is again quite a recent one where we just did some spring flowers in an Easter egg shape. And I think this was one of the first ever projects that we did, were these mushrooms. And do you know what? It's actually made me realize how far my watercolor skills and my observation skills have come, because if I was going to paint this now, I would do a lot more detail to this. It needs an extra layer of shadows under these little white things and highlights, but it's still a good fun exercise. But it has made me realize that I would paint these mushrooms differently. You know, we all progress and change. And this was one of the mixed media projects of just a kind of, again, a little quirky bird. So moving on to some plants, and there's also some illustrations of which I've got hardly any examples, and I don't know where the rest are. I really apologize for that. But we did some little pots of flowers here with crocuses and snowdrops. I really like this one with the, again, the white flowers. It's almost like a paint out style, and some gouache cactuses. I really love how the different mediums lend themselves to different styles. So you can do maybe more realistic with the watercolor, and you can of course with gouache, but the gouache tends to look really good when you do quite illustrative work. So here was my illustrative cacti, and again, this was just an exercise, blowing with a straw and doing some pine cones. And let's see, these three were just fun mixed media projects that are maybe a little bit scrappy. I would say these are some of my least favorite. But don't let that stop you from doing them. Sometimes I experiment, and sometimes my experiments do not work. But that is what learning and growing is for. Now, I have no idea where the rest of these are, but we did a series of calendar images, and I've got January and February and April, and I think the here was March, and I don't know where the rest of them are. If I can't find them, I will maybe try and pop some up on the screen. I've got them on in my photos. I'll try and pop some more up on the screen so that you can see. And then we did some story illustrations, and again, I cannot for the life of me find any of them. I think I might have sold some of them. But this one was Rapunzel, and I just really loved doing her braid. And oh, this is in the wrong place, but this was some more of the eyes. We did a human eye and a horse's eye, and I think this is a lizard or a crocodile. And I've also got a little series of portrait lessons, and I don't know where they are. I don't know where any of those are, but I'll try and pop some up on the screen for you so that you can see them. But we've got a cute little fairy here, which is a little bit of a crossover to my other club that I do with Karen Campbell, which is the Celtic Collective. And that club is all fairy, fantasy, folklore art, which I'm all here for. I love that. And I could paint all those things all day long. And if you're interested in that one, I'll also give you the link to that club if you want to go and check that one out. This was one of the portrait lessons. This was like a mixed media, watercolor and gouache, and I really wanted to concentrate on doing hair in this lesson. And then last in this pile, before we move on to some sketchbooks and some mixed media, is we've got a little series of follow the artist, or that's the wrong thing to say. We've got a little series of artist studies, and I do want to add to that in future. There are more artists I want to look at, but we were looking at artists and doing copies of their work, and then also doing our own versions of their work. So we've got Mucha here. I just love this painting by Mucha. So we did our own version. We looked at, obviously we're not copying exactly their techniques, because a lot of these artists would have used not watercolor, but maybe oils or something like that. But we are looking at how, you know, how they draw and what kinds of styles they had. This was a copy of one of Frida Kahlo's portraits, and this is done in watercolor and gouache, I think. And then this was our own version of a Mucha. So this was a self-portrait and done in that kind of stained glass almost style of Mucha. And then we looked at Gustav Klimt, and we did our own version of The Kiss, which again, this is one of my favorites. I just love this. And then we did our own version of a Klimt, doing a self-portrait again. And this was a paint over photograph, although I don't look like that in real life. Or maybe that is not me. That's a magazine image. I think that's not me. That's a magazine image. Excuses. I'm trying to make myself look a lot more better looking and younger than I am in real life. We were doing paint over a magazine, and then Gustav Klimt style elements. And then we looked at William Morris. And we did lots of Morris studies. So lots of studies of his style of plants, which I could paint like this all day long. I just love it. I just love the way that gouache looks on paper like this. And then we did a copy of an element, a part of the Strawberry Thief, which is one of William Morris's most famous paintings, and then our own design. Oh, this is the wrong way up. Our own design, but in a William Morris style. So let's move on. This is a super long video. Let's move on to, I've got a few actually that are prints because I no longer have them. I sold them. But we did this lunar moth. This is a card, but we did a painting of it. And we did a gouache dragonfly with cornflowers. Remember those cornflowers that I showed you earlier? They were studies. So if you are new to art, you can do the studies first, and then that builds up to doing the finished piece. The colouring in the real one is a little bit different because this is a print, and it was not, the colouring didn't come out exactly. It's come out a little bit darker, but we did this large gouache painting of, the real one is twice the size maybe, of this dragonfly with forget-me-nots and cornflowers. And then again, this is a print of a gouache illustration that we've done of a cute little hedgehog in autumn leaves. And again, this is just a printed version because I sold the finished one in real life. So here are some of my these are some more recent projects because these were some mixed media and so on. And so we did a little series of sleeping animals on clouds, and I'm obsessed. I just think they are so cute. These are mostly watercolor with some colored pencil and some fine liners. Just starting to branch out a bit. When I started off, I was like, not a watercolor purist, but I was like, you start a watercolor painting and you do the whole thing in watercolor. You do the fine lines with a fine watercolor pen. And now I'm realizing that actually you can make your life easier by using other media, like to do, for example, the colored pencil is a quick way of doing extra shading. So you can do a super quick watercolor painting and then do some extra shading with pencil, do some details with pen. It's just a different way of doing things, and it's fun to explore different ways of doing your artwork. So we've got these cute little illustrations. This was 2 separate lessons, and I just did them on the same piece of paper to save paper. And again, a super cute little illustration of a giraffe, which I think is one of my favorite recent lessons. I just love him. He's just so cute. And a little abstract. This is just a little abstract. Trees, just a fun abstract painting for this was for Valentine's, and this was the other Valentine's, which was a little couple. Now we had some markers. This is some markers work. These are all markers, and these are markers. This is markers and colored pencil and fine liner pen. So again, don't feel like you need to limit yourself to just one medium. This is another cute little markers illustration. I can't believe I shied away from markers for so long. I was a little bit scared of them and thought that they would be too difficult. And then Karen Campbell made me do it, and I tried them and I loved them, and now I love markers. So you will be getting some more markers lessons in the Art Lab Association if you join, but these are some to start off with. So remember that fox that we did in gouache? This one is in markers. And again, we did some cactuses in gouache, and now we've done some in markers. This was a little exercise in shells, doing different shells, and a little winter deer painting, and a froggy. And remember that little owl that we did? Was it an owl? And a hedgehog in watercolors with the jumper. Well, we did one in markers as well. And I got more markers, and again, I don't know where they are. Maybe I gave them away or sold them. So this is mixed media. This is markers and colored pencil, like water droplets on a leaf, and a super, super simple acorn. It's like a beginner's one. And these are colored pencil lessons. So I've got the beginnings. I'm just starting out with my other media, and I don't want to flood the Art Lab Association with other media yet, because I am aware that a lot of people joined because it was watercolor and gouache, and I don't want people thinking that I'm not ever going to do those things again. So I'm dripping these in slowly, but these are some colored pencil lessons in just doing some little studies in colored pencil. So finally, before we go, just going to show you some of the ones I found in various sketchbooks, and there's probably more lurking, but you've probably seen enough by now to decide whether you're interested or not. But I thought I may as well show you some of the ones that I found in here. So this was some flamingos, and this was the simple lesson, simple watercolor, and then this was the more complex. So quite often I will have within a subject matter a simple one and a more complex one, so that you can choose which one you want to do, or you can progress from one to the other. So this is a more illustrative gouache one. I love this shade of pink. It's just delicious. And then we did, this was looking at another artist, and I can't remember the artist's name off the top of my head, I'm sorry. But she had these really cute little birds that almost had patterns in their feathers. And I think that's the last Art Lab Association lesson in there. We did some more kind of urban sketching, or I've got a little section on buildings and landscapes. So this is a cute little scene, excuse the spill there, a cute little building. This is not Art Lab, this is Celtic Collective, and this is another little animal in that series of like the snow leopard. I really should start a journal and finish it rather than doing a couple of pages in each one and then not getting any further. I think this was a super simple beginner's lesson, just a little snowy landscape. And then another, we've got another landscape here, and this was doing a galaxy sky. And another little watercolor landscape. We've got a little series of landscapes in either gouache or watercolor that are all quite beginner friendly. And in here, some more landscapes, some more little graphic gouache landscapes. And this size is really nice because you can do it quite quickly. So we were looking at photos and how to translate them into like a graphic landscape. And then there's a series of trying out different drawing mediums, which is something that I'm actually a little bit more of a beginner in, or not so well versed. So I wanted to try it out, and I try it out on video with you. So it's not like, you know, doesn't look super exciting, but it's just, I was trying out whether the pens ran or whether they stayed, and doing almost like pen and ink, little pen and ink studies, little pen and ink landscapes. But you can see that even I have like a lot to learn with this. This one's a little bit better. And maybe we'll do some more of these together, because this is something I would like to improve on. This is based off Charlie Mackesy. He's an artist. He did The Boy, the Horse and the, I think it's Boy, the Horse and the Fox. That lovely book. And this is a photo that I took of a horse. And then last but not least, there are some more markers. So there's there's just two in here. Some more markers, a little seahorse, and that is all I have for you. Certainly all I have that I can have at hand for the moment. So if you are interested in finding out more about the Art Lab Association, you can follow the links that I will provide for you, and you can find out more there. And you can also contact me if you've got any questions whatsoever. We have a Facebook group where students can post their work, and if you've got any questions about any of the lessons, you can get in touch through the Facebook group, or you can even get in touch through email or my my own art page. And sometimes students just contact me directly through Facebook. We're super friendly. We want to have lots of fun learning together. There are literally so many projects now that it would take you tons of time to get through, and you can pick and choose which ones you find the most exciting and start off with those. And I have a visual index that I need to update, but it will be updated soon. Hopefully by the time this video comes out, it will have updated, where you can see the projects. And then if you're already a member and you're logged into your Teachable site, because my class is hosted on Teachable, if you're logged in, then the link will take you directly to the lesson. So that is an easy way of finding your way around the multitudes of lessons that there are in the classroom. And let me know in the comments which is your favorite medium, and which of the projects I showed you was the one that you would like to do the most. I would love to know that. I'm always intrigued to know which projects students find most exciting, so that I can cater to you, because you guys are the important ones. You're the ones that are learning. And I will hopefully not be as long before I do my next YouTube video. I would love to do a walkthrough of my Celtic Collective lessons, but I actually have very, very few of those anymore, because we gave them away to people who became lifetime members, and so I don't have hardly any of them. They all got posted. But in the upcoming months, I'll have some more. So let me know if you would like to see some of those projects as well. And thank you so much for watching.